A surd is a square root which cannot be worked out exactly. We can think about square roots and use that to develop these three rules of surds. For example, if I have the square root of 4 times the square root of 4, I know that that's going to be 2 times 2, but 2 times 2 is 4. So it seems as though when we times a square root by itself, it undoes the square root sign. Another example, if I have the square root of 9 times 4, we know that that is the square root of 9. We know that that is the square root of 36, which is 6. But we could also think of it like this. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 4 is 2. 3 times 2 is also 6. Finally, if I look at the square root of 18... Finally, if I look at the square root of 16 over 4, we know that's going to be the square root of 4, because 16 divided by 4 is 4, which gives us 2. But you could also think of it as the square root of 16, which is 4, over the square root of 4, which is 2, which will also give you 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And that illustrates these three rules. If I have the square root of a times b, I get the square root of a times the square root of b. The square root of a divided by b is the square root of a divided by the square root of b. And lastly, root a times root a is just a. It undoes the square root. Here are some examples for us to look at. If I have root 2 times root 2, that just gives us 2. That's the third law of surds, or the third rule of surds. If I look at b, I've got root 63 over root 7. But I know that that is just going to be root 63 over 7. 63 divided by 7 is 9, so that's root 9, which is just 3. Root 14 squared, we know that means root 14 times root 14, which we know by the third law of surds, or the third rule of surds, that's just 14. For d, we have root 3 plus 2 root 3. The rules don't actually help us here. I just need to remember that root 3 is one lot of root 3. So I have one lot of root 3 plus 2 lots of root 3, which gives me 3 lots of root 3. That's not a cube root, that's 3 times root 3. For e, I want to simplify as far as I can go. I've got 8 root 7 plus 2 root 7 times 2 root 7, which gives me 8 root 7 plus 2 times 2 is 4. And then by the third law, or third rule of surds, root 7 times root 7 is 7. So I just have 8 root 7 plus 4 times 7, which is 28. And we can't actually simplify that any further. Finally, for f, root 5 cubed is root 5 times root 5 times root 5. I know that root 5 is 5. So I have a final answer of 5 times root 5, which is just 5 root 5. It's really handy for us to be able to simplify surds into smaller square roots. To do this, we look at factors of the numbers inside the square root, which are perfect squares. For example, if we look at root 12, I could write root 12 as the square root of 4 times 3. And I think about 4 because 4 is a square number. I then remember that root 4 times 3 is root 4 times root 3. But the square root of 4 is 2, so I have 2 root 3. The square root of 16, we know that's going to be 4, but just to illustrate the idea, I could say that 16 is 4 times 4, which would give me the square root of 4 times the square root of 4, which is 2 times 2, which gives us 4. For c, I know that 9 is a perfect square, which goes into 27, so I'm going to write 27 as 9 times 3. So I have root 9 times root 3, which is root 9 times root 3, which is just 3 root 3. Root 72, I know that 36 goes into 72 twice, so I have root 2 times 36. This is going to be root 2 times root 36. Root 36 is 6, so I have 6 root 2. Root 450, I know that 9 goes into 450 50 times, so I have root 9 times root 50, which is 3 root 50. But I also know that 25 goes into 50 twice, so I have root 25 times 2, so I have 3 root 25 root 2. Root 25 is 5, so I end up with 3 5s of 15, 15 root 2. Here are some practice questions for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go at them, and when you're ready for the answers, press play. Here are the answers. Here are some harder calculations we can do with surds. There's a single bracket to be expanded. I've got root 2 times root 2 times 3 plus root 8. I'm going to have 3 times root 2, which is 3 root 2, plus root 2 times root 8. But root 2 times root 8 is just root 2 times 8, which is just 3 root 2 plus root 16, which gives me 4 plus 3 root 2. For b, I've got root 3 times root 2, which is root 6. Root 3 times root 7 is root 42. I'm doing FOIL now, so I've done my first and my outside. Inside is root 5 root 2, which is root 10. And the last is root 5 root 7, which is root 35. This gives me root 6 plus root 42 plus root 10 plus root 35, and let's see if there's anything we can simplify. 42, 6. And it doesn't seem to be much that we can do in the way of simplifying there, but if we look at C, root 8 take away root 2 all squared, we have root 8 take away root 2 times root 8 take away root 2. Root 8 is 8. Root 8 times minus root 2 is minus root 16. Minus root 2 root 8 is minus root 2 minus root 16 again. Minus root 2 times minus root 2 is plus 2, which gives me 8 plus 2, which is 10. Root 16 is 4, so I take away 4, and take away 4 again with the other root 16, giving me 10 take away 8, which is a final answer of 2. Here are some questions for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go, and when you're ready for the answers, press play. Okay, let's go through the answers. I want to go through these in more detail. So root 3 plus root 5 squared. I have root 3 plus root 5, root 3 plus root 5. Root 3 is 3. Root 3 root 5 is root 15. So I have root 15, root 15. Root 5 is 5. I have 8 plus 2 root 15, and I don't think we can simplify the root 15. Root 6 take away root 2 all squared. I've got root 6 take away root 2 times root 6 take away root 2. We have first root 6 is 6. Outside root 6 root 2 is root 12, so I have minus root 12. Inside minus root 12, and last minus root 2 minus root 2. Minus root 2 times minus root 2 is plus 2. So we have 8 take away 2 root 12. I can simplify by taking out the factor of 4 in the root 12. So I have 4 times 3, which gives me 8 take away 2 times root 4 is 2 root 3, which is just 8 take away 4 root 3. For E, this is a bit of a tricky question. So I have root 5 root 40 over root 10. To simplify, I can consider the root 40 over root 10. So I could think of this as root 5 times root 40 over 10, which is root 5 times root 4, which is just 2 root 5. Similarly for F, so this is one which we didn't see, but I'll go through it now. We could do root, so in this case we could work out the numerator first, giving me root 240 over root 20, which is root 240 over 20, which works out to be root 12, which is root 4 times 3, which is just 2 root 3.